JJ, you said something the other day about kind of the juice, right, that you bring to an arena before playoff game number one. What does that feel like for you, and how do you translate that to the team?
I think our team has it, and it's like anybody that's been in a highly competitive situation with stakes. You know what that feeling is like.
You know that every game's going to be a little different. What's the top line item for game one against Minnesota?
Play hard and execute.
JJ, you had said in the regular season that you envisioned a 9-man rotation, and you largely stuck to that when you guys were relatively healthy. What do you envision in the playoffs, and what are the factors you're weighing within how many guys you go with?
Not committed to anything. So just you got to read the game and certainly look at different lineups. Maybe you don't play a guy versus certain lineups, and you do play a guy versus other lineups. But in terms of a rotation, we're not committed to anything.
When you first put together your coaching staff, we spoke a lot about the importance of the experience, specifically with Nate and Scotty. What have their, I guess, roles for you been like in the playoff preparation? How have their roles, I guess, for you differed leading up to today?
No changes. No change in role.
JJ, during the season, you often said that when you were messaging to your team, you were able to be referential to moments that had come prior. Were you able to still do that, knowing that the regular season is kind of a hard period? And if so, what were some of the moments that you used to kind of inform you about where your team is today?
Anytime we prep for any opponent, we focus a lot on us and how we do things, and that was no different this week.
JJ, the word joy is all over this arena. It's become part of, I guess, the messaging heading into this postseason. How did that become part of this group's ethos?
From day one, our team, our coaching staff, our team, our players, all of us together decided on 4 values for this season and what it meant to be a Laker. And joy was one of those 4 values.
JJ, how did you kind of mine information or develop your game plan in conjunction, or if you did, in conjunction with LeBron in the week leading up to this series? Like, what was that communication like? And we all know that he knows the game pretty well. Like, how did you use that as a resource?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't necessarily us going to LeBron and saying, how do you want us to guard this, or what do you want the coverage to be here? We rely heavily on our analytics group. We rely on a lot of data for stuff. It informs a lot of our processes when we map out a game plan offensively and defensively. But the dialogue with him this week has been awesome. He's been great in practice, in defensive breakdowns. He's been great in film. A lot of our guys have. Our group has been very engaged this week, and he's led that.
JJ, obviously a lot of star players, both sides. Just from your experience, the depth Lakers have, depth Minnesota has, they got a lot of guys that they use off the bench as well. How important are the other players, those role players, when you come into playoff matchups? Just how important are the other guys?
Very important, and there's a long list of examples of role players that have impacted a game, impacted a series, impacted a championship run. I can think of many recent examples. The guys that we have on our team have done a great job all year in starring in their roles, whatever that role may be, from Luka, LeBron, all the way down to Doe, Gabe, Vando. So they have a number of players that play a role for them that have starred in their roles, and there's again, I've said all week, they're a very formidable opponent for anyone. They're one of the best teams in basketball, and they have a number of players besides Anthony Edwards that keep you up at night.
Coach, a lot gets mentioned about players preparing and stepping up for the postseason. What does that look like for you as a first-year coach preparing for this series?
Just more intensive. I mean, the preparation for any game was a lot, but just more intensive.
From your perspective, this is a 3-6 series, but you guys only had one fewer win in the regular season. Just kind of how have you talked to your group about maybe the parity that could exist in this first round series?
Yeah, I mean that's just kind of the story of the West, and we kind of felt it all year, being in that tussle. We haven't talked a whole lot about it. We know not many people are picking us. I think our guys have leaned into that a little bit. We know who we are. That's the most important thing. We feel really good about the basketball we've been playing. Feel that we're capable of beating anybody in the league. And in many ways, we've struggled with some of the teams that aren't in the playoffs more than we have the other teams. So, guys will certainly be focused for this, of course. But I think they were excited for this matchup. Just if nothing else for. It's one of the more marquee matchups of the first round. So,
Chris, you mentioned not a lot of people picking you guys. Is this a team, do you think, that feeds off of that kind of stuff or looks at that as motivation?
I mean, it hasn't been like a major theme coursing through the week. I think we've been more dialed in on preparation and things we need to do well. But historically, John, you followed us, and sometimes when we get too much love and attention, we get a little bit, soft and lazy. So, good motivation for our guys at the right time. So.
Chris, you had a full week of preparation. In that week, what thing did you really want to emphasize the most or shore up the most compared to the regular season?
I mean, just discipline around the defensive game plan. It really has to be disciplined. It's one thing we learned last year with the Dallas series and Luka. They're just not, you got to change it up and do different things. And obviously they have the ability to change the complexion of the court by putting out different lineup combinations and pick on your matchups and stuff like that. So it forces you to do a lot, which means you got to cover a lot of ground in a week like this. So it's a good thing we had the week. Hopefully we'll get it right. But yeah, the discipline around those coverages for sure.
Chris, with having a week to develop a game plan, I'm sure you have contingencies built into that. But in like a game one, how quick are you to go, okay, well, let's go into plan B here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much every night. We always have a plan B, but, you just got to be true to who you are, and you can't just, panic right away. I don't see that happening, so.
Chris, what was it like to coach J.J. Redick?
Oh, it was an absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. No, I mean, actually, it was great. It was a wild season. I mean, it was a season that COVID hit. We lost 13 games in a row at one point. We were on the verge of making the playoffs. We ended up in the bubble. That kind of was an interesting experience. But it was interesting to coach JJ because, I learned a lot from him. I'd never coached a shooter at that level, and they just guarded him so differently than even a lot of really good shooters. So he imparted a lot of tricks of the trade, things that he needed that he had seen through his career. So, it's like anything else. You always learn from really good players. So, not surprised that he's had success. He's got a very sharp basketball mind, relates to people extremely well, is super competitive. He has all the DNA.
Hey, Chris, what's the proper balance? Right here.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. What's the proper balance for Anthony Edwards of trying to be as aggressive as he can for himself, but at the same time, the balance of facilitating?
Sure.
Just what's that balance for him?
Yeah, I think it starts from, being aggressive doesn't necessarily mean you got to shoot all the shots. I mean, you got to be aggressive with the mindset to lean into what the defense is going to give you. You got to figure out ways to get yourself involved if they're going to continually commit multiple guys to you, trusting your teammates. I think that's something he's gotten exponentially better at. Not just the trust part, but the reading and the understanding and the why and how to figure out those little pieces within that. But we need him to be aggressive. We need him to be Ant. He loves these moments. This is what he lives for. I thought last year in the playoffs, certainly heading into the playoffs, he did a really great job of setting the tone for our guys in making all the plays that the defense was giving. And as the series went along, for the most part, he was able to benefit too. So, thank you.
JJ, you went into the second quarter up 7. What did you see flip in the game at that point?
They were able to get the start of their run was transition and a second chance. And if you look sort of at the effort offense areas for them, they ended up with 25 fast break points, which that's always skewed by the counter, so it's more than that, and 23 second chance points. So, the schematics wise in the half court, we'll take a look at everything and see what we want to tweak and all that. That's hard to overcome, particularly when a team is shooting like they were shooting tonight.
With that said, that you got to go and look at it, they hit 21 threes. How many of those did you feel like were ones that you kind of have to live with to wall up the paint versus ones that you would have liked to see contested differently?
Yeah, I mean, I have to go look back at everyone, but I know a number of those were in transition and off offensive rebounds.
JJ, Luka was able to get off to such a good start scoring the basketball, but I think he finished with only a single assist. What were they doing to kind of limit his playmaking opportunities, and what did you see on that front when it came to the other guys, particularly early in the first half?
A lot of it was just the coverage scheme they had, not really playing Gobert his normal minutes, and then some late reds, some late veers with him when he was in coverage. Then that. They had their 1 through 5 switching group in. So just in terms of like the 2 on the basketball, the blitzes, the 4 on 3s, just not there. I mean, I think that was expected on our side. But again, we'll look at the film and see what we can do better.
JJ, so much of your, to your right, so much of your mantra this year has been effort defensively. It just wasn't there at the beginning of the second and the beginning of the third. Any thoughts on why that was, or were they doing something different to offset it?
No, I don't. Again, they're a great opponent. They're one of the best teams in basketball. There's, I think, it's not to say our guys weren't like ready to withstand like a playoff level basketball game. We were mentally ready. I thought our spirit was right. I thought even when they made runs, our huddles were great. The communication was great. I'm not sure physically we were ready, if that makes sense. And really, when they started playing with a lot of thrust and physicality, like we just didn't respond immediately to that. And then that stretch from the start of the second through 4 or 5 minutes to go in the third, we lost that stretch by 34. So that's a blowout.
You mentioned the physicality, and all week as we discussed with you this series, we knew that they're going to have a size advantage in certain matchups. How did you feel like that affected Austin Reeves early on, and do you feel like he was able to find some counters to deal with that as the game went on?
Yeah, I thought he did a good job as the game went on. Again, there's sometimes the early onslaught from Luka, it's just like easy offense, and he's making shots and getting downhill. The first possession he drives on Gobert, and then he's hitting threes, and that's really good offense for us. And some of the other guys may not touch the ball for stretches. And I thought there wasn't necessarily like forced actions. He missed a little bunny at the paint. LeBron missed 2 open threes. We had a Rui open 3. That was all at the end of the first, start of the second. And look, it's just natural again. Sometimes the missed shots can affect the defense. There was a couple misses at the rim that then led to those transition buckets where, we had a man down, them playing 5-on-4 or 3-on-2. So we can be a lot better on offense and defense.
JJ, similarly with LeBron, he got off to a slow start before it felt like he found his footing more so in the second half. What did you see with him and how they were defending him?
They're obviously switching his pick and rolls with Gobert. And I thought we got a few good stuff just trying to get Conley involved with him on the ball. Probably got to do a better job of mixing in some off-ball actions for LeBron. There was a few plays, we had sort of called or drawn up, and they went zone nearly every time we ran an ATO. We'll do better with that.
You referenced some of the missed layups you guys had. Only 10 points in the paint at halftime, finished with 32. How much of that was just simply guys missing shots they would normally make versus something Minnesota?
Well, Gobert and McDaniels make it tough. We were 1 for 7 at the rim. That's not necessarily the expected PPP on that. So we can be better. We were 7 for 20 on 2s in the first half, but some of those were non-paint 2s. So again, just they're going to try to make you take those shots, and they're going to try to make you finish over length. I thought there were times we did a good job with spacing Gobert, but again, if he's on the ball and you're driving him, it's a tough finish.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey, Lucas, several of your teammates just talked about the need to match the Timberwolves' physicality a little bit better. You obviously played against them last year and a little more familiar in the playoff context, but did you feel like that was lacking some in parts of the game and you guys can respond better in game 2?
Definitely. I think the fourth quarter we played the way we play. I think we were playing physical. Everybody was locked in. And then we just kind of, let go of the rope. So we got to be way more physical. It's 48 minutes, and every possession matters.
Luka, you just mentioned letting go of the rope. What did you see in the second quarter and then like that first half of the third quarter before you guys went on the run to close it there? Just the middle 2 quarters when I think they outscored you guys by like 34 in that middle stretch. What did you see during that stretch?
Yeah, I think it was physical. They were hitting a lot of threes. We got to limit their threes, especially their lasers. And we weren't physical. They were running. They were getting anything they want, and we got to be better with that.
Look, when you get going early to start the game, and we've seen you do it a bunch of times since you joined the Lakers, and I think tonight you have 14, they have 12. The Lakers are up by 8, but other guys aren't touching the ball. Is that ever cognizant in your mind in terms of like getting other guys touches as well as getting yourself going? Is that a balance that you have to strike at all? Offensively, I'm just curious.
Yeah, sure. I don't know how to respond to that one really, but yeah, I guess gotta pass more. I don't know. I don't know how to respond to it, honestly. I'm just trying to set the tone from early. But obviously, 1 assist, that's not good enough for me.
What did you see from the team late in the third, early in the fourth, when you guys start to chip away at the Timberwolves deficit? I think you guys cut it to 12 after being down by 27.
Yeah, I think just playing our game, just playing the way we know how to play. We were physical, we had energy on the defensive end, and then we just get out in transition and play our game.
Luka, yo sé que esta no es la manera como querías terminar el partido. Tengo 2 preguntas. Primero, ¿qué tan físico fue este partido? Y después de ser bombardeados con esos triples, ¿qué tan abrumador fue ese momento y cómo trataron de recuperarse?
Sí, no es una buena manera de empezar, pero siempre digo en un playoff series, primero a 4, ¿no? Alguna vez vas a perder, alguna vez no, pero es primero a 4. Creo que están muy acertados hoy y tenemos que limitar eso.
Luka, sí, no querían iniciar con una derrota, pero ¿qué se rescata de este partido?
Creo que cuando hemos jugado como nosotros sabemos jugar, con defensa buena, con mucha energía, hemos tenido nuestros momentos y tenemos que mirar eso y aprovechar estas ocasiones.
Luka, una derrota, obviamente el objetivo es ganar, pero metiste una canasta increíble de media cancha. ¿Puedes platicaros esa jugada y cómo se vivió?
Sí, bueno, pensaba que nos iba a dar un empujón, íbamos perdiendo y creo que esa canasta levantó a la gente. Pensaba que nos iba a dar un empujón, pero bueno, no valió para nada. Sí.
Luka, back here. What did you kind of make of your first experience here in the postseason in terms of the atmosphere pregame and kind of how you guys were able to get the crowd back into it?
It was great atmosphere. Sorry we couldn't get the first win, but it's always first to 4. It's been amazing. The crowd was amazing. They were sticking with us even when we was down, so I really appreciate it.
Luka, ¿qué pasó en ese segundo cuarto y qué viste sobre la manera que ellos buscaron limitar tu juego a la hora de involucrar a los compañeros?
Creo que la defensa no estuvo al límite. Creo que no hemos defendido, han anotado muchos puntos en ese segundo cuarto, en transición, de rebote, y creo que nuestra defensa luego no ha salido en ataque.
Luka, in games like this, what do you feel the team needs to adjust collectively to respond better in the next game?
Just being physical, play like we played in the first quarter. I think when we played our first quarter when we were at the best. So just limit their threes, limit transition, limit second chance points, and play our game.
Luka, ¿crees que faltó urgencia en este partido? Tuviste un gran comienzo, pero te limitaron a solo una asistencia. ¿Y cómo sentiste el ambiente en tu primer juego de playoffs aquí?
Bueno, alguna vez va a ser alguna 10, no sé. Al final, sí, cuando no doblaron, no podía tener muchas asistencias, pero bueno, creo que nuestra defensa no ha sido buena hoy. Tenemos que mejorar en eso.
Luka, Minnesota was able to kind of penetrate the paint with ease and kind of get those driving kicks going and, got hot from 3. How much of that is things that, the team needs to kind of work on? How much of that is just Minnesota hitting shots?
I mean, they have great shooters, obviously. I think we have to do a better job, limited their threes. They hit 21 threes, which is a lot. It's gonna be really hard when the team shoots 50% from 3 to win the game. And we gotta do better to taking them off the line and trying to force 2s. Thank you.
Hey, Jared, JJ and a couple of the other guys talked about the kind of to your right to the physicality in this game, maybe not being what you guys want. And where do you see as the ways that can flip in the start of game 2, and kind of how does that reflect upon the game if you guys are matching physicality like you want to?
I think we got to be the aggressor. I feel like they hit us first, and they were the more physical team for the majority of the game. We tried to pick it up late in the second half and through the fourth, but when you're facing that deficit, it's kind of hard to overcome. So I think just having that physicality to start the game and just being the aggressor early on.
Vando, you guys found some momentum late in the third. You guys had it closing on a 17-6 run. You were a big part of that in kind of agitating them and also picking up full court and wreaking havoc defensively. What did you see during that stretch that you feel like you guys can carry forward into game 2?
Just toughness. I think it's the playoffs, man. We gotta play hard. I think they was beating us to all the 50-50 balls, offensive rebounds, the loose balls, like everything. They was just winning that battle. And I think in the playoffs, we got the tougher team that win that battle usually wins the game. Those big plays that we was giving up. And I think igniting that early on, myself included, to even in that first half. I feel like third quarter we tried to turn it up, but like I said, sometimes it's too late. To try to overcome that deficit. So just starting the game like that with that mindset, just being tough, being physical, and yeah.
How did you guys in the locker room post game balance out the sense of urgency between kind of what you're saying, bringing the physicality, bringing that energy early versus also the recognition of it is just the first game of the series and you guys have several more, almost more opportunities to turn things around?
Yeah, that's why I say it's playoffs. We just got to have a greater sense of urgency, man, to start the game throughout the whole game. We got to play all 48, especially against a team like that. They scrappy, they physical, they pick up full court, and yeah, we just got to match that physicality.
Jared, you guys for the last several weeks have done things and accomplished things to allow yourselves to feel good about yourself. Winning games you needed to win, securing the 2 seed, making sure you stay out of the play-in tournament, earning some time off. Was it jarring at all to be back into this space of like, okay, now we're dealing with adversity because it's been a minute for this group?
Yeah, I feel like we've been dealing with adversity all year, man. Obviously, we ain't played in a week, so I think it was good to just get back out there, today. And yeah, I mean, it's the playoffs, so we're gonna have some adversity. Like don't get too high, don't get too low about this game. Our confidence is still as high as ever, in this series right now. So, yeah, that was just a wake-up call, and we, got some adjustments and ready for game 2.
Vando, Minnesota won the points in the paint battle, 44-32. What's the key to kind of combating that size and neutralizing them in the paint?
I think most of it was second chance and then fast break points. I think they won the fast break battle 25-6. So just getting back in transition and just limited them to one shot. I think our first shot defense was pretty good. But when we let them get offensive rebound, we let them capitalize on that. So, yeah, just being more physical. That's why I said hitting first, everybody gang rebounding, and that's going to take all 5 on the floor to do that.
LeBron, you've been through more game 1s than anybody. What after a game like this, where it's a big score line at home, what's the kind of the proper way to try and respond from that mentally, physically, and all of it?
Well, obviously, we got to do a better job of controlling the controllables, and I don't think we did a good enough job after the first quarter. Once they blitzed us in that second quarter, 38-20. But, giving up 21 threes, giving up 20-plus fast break points, second chance points, those are some of the things that we can control. Obviously the three-point shooting, we know they have a lot of lasers. They have a lot of guys that can shoot from the perimeter. So we got to do a better job of closing the bodies and getting out on shooters. So, we'll get back in the film room tomorrow, look at the things that we did well, some of the things that we didn't do so well, and continue the game plan for game 2. We have a couple of days to prepare for it.
LeBron, both AR and JJ mentioned that they felt like one of the factors tonight was the physicality being something that maybe caught you guys early on in the game. Were there any things that you saw that gave you belief that you figured out how to counter that as the game went on that you can take into game 2?
Well, definitely. When you play in a Minnesota team, they're going to be physical. That's what they bring to the table. Maybe it took us one playoff game to now get a feel for it and know what the type of intensity, the type of physicality that's going to be brought to the game. But that's just the way they play. So we should be more than prepared for that on Tuesday night.
LeBron, obviously you guys are going to meet game 2 with a sense of urgency, but what's sort of the right approach to a game 2 when you're down 0-1 in terms of still being calm and understanding kind of the big picture of things while also knowing that it's obviously an incredibly important game?
No, we understand that. They took home court from us tonight. as far as the series. But, we have an opportunity to even the series out on Tuesday, and we have to play a much better game than we did today. Like I said, we have to control the controllables, and if we do that, we're going to give ourselves a much better chance to win than we did tonight.
You mentioned one of the first answers there, the Timberwolves 20-plus fast break points is a key factor. How much of that did you see as a result of just you guys missing, shots close to the rim and near the rim, and them running out just from there?
No, we did a great job later on. Throughout the whole season, we did a great job of not allowing teams to get, fast break point after fast break point after fast break point. Like I said, those guys are 10 for 15 and 25 points on the fast break. We already know offensively how dangerous they are. So when you're giving teams an opportunity to get those easy points, it's going to be hard to make that up. We only had 6 ourselves, so that we got outscored by 19 in that race. So, those are things that we control by getting back, setting our defense, making them score against our half-court defense.
LeBron, you guys closed the third on a 17-6 run and then carried that over into the first few minutes of the fourth. What did you see during that stretch of 6-7 minutes that you feel like you could take in a game?
We met the intensity, what they were bringing to the table. We met the physicality with physicality, and started to get up into them. Allowed us to get some turnovers, allowed us to get some extra possessions, and it allowed us to get back into the game. So, like I said, sometimes it takes a quarter, 2 quarters, a full game to get used to playoff basketball once again. So it shouldn't be no surprise on Tuesday.
LeBron, to your right, when you talk about controlling the controllables in the second and third quarter, what comes to mind at those times?
Offensive rebounds, giving up open shots to lasers, not being in the right position. So it was a lot of factors that allowed them to build that big lead up to 27.
LeBron, Minnesota was able to kind of penetrate, driving kick. They converted a lot on those corner threes and things of that nature. How much of that was just a team getting hot and hitting their shots, and how much of that is part of the controllables and things that you can prevent?
We're going to look at the film and break it down. There's some that was just great plays by them. We're all NBA players. We know how to make plays. Some of the things we could have control, but we watch the film and see ways we could be better with our rotations going into game 2.
LeBron, the Timberwolves scored 18 points off turnovers compared just to 9 by the Lakers. How do you think the team can do a better job managing that in the upcoming games?
Well, obviously, taking care of the ball versus a team like this is very important. But anytime you're in the postseason, you got to take care of the ball, and if you turn the ball over, you got to try your best to get back, in transition and not allow them to get points. Like you said, they had 18 points off our 13 turnovers, and we only had 9 off their 10. So we got to do a much better job of trying to turn them over, and at the same time, do a better job of protecting the ball, and not having as many turnovers for us, especially at home. All right, appreciate it.